Hello everyone, welcome to Aardvark Swift, the segment in which we talk to members of the games industry about their careers and what they've learned throughout their time in it. Today I'm talking to Joseph Harford of Airship Images. Hello Joe, thank you for joining us today.
Happy to be here, pleasure.
Would you mind going into a little bit about your background in terms of how you got into the industry?
Yeah, I'd love to. I feel very blessed that I got into the industry at a really early age. I always knew I wanted to be something in art and techie art world. Like it was really fascinating. So even at school, I was making artwork on the computer when I was in cooking class or whatever. I was doing artwork on the computer, and I was just absolutely fascinated that you could put like a sphere or a cube in a scene and light it up and see it reflect stuff. It was just like that blew my mind. And then seeing Final Fantasy and those early cinematics was just, again, that like blew my mind again. And it was like, I want to be able to create that, to inspire the same emotions that I got from seeing those cinematics for the first time. I didn't necessarily want to make the games or design the games. And I sort of stopped playing games almost as well, because I was just so fascinated with creating those experiences. So then after after school, I went to graphic design college to get some experience there. I actually left within, I think, 4 months. I think they told me that I was definitely going to fail. So I was like, well, all right, there's no point in being here then for the rest of the season. So I'll cut my losses and get out now. But I had a decent portfolio of character work. So I applied to university. I got into Swansea University. And pretty much the same thing happened. I spent way too much of my own time just learning everything I could about 3D, CGI, posting on message boards and just getting lots and lots of feedback to get better. And I started freelancing at that time for some car companies doing advertising work. And that spread to a whole bunch more freelance. And then I got contacted by the CEO of Crytek, Shavat, who back then Far Cry had just blown up. Literally, Crysis was in development, and they were looking for new grads, new students of 3D to come and join that company. And I was employee number 35, and I saw that company then grow to sort of 700 while I was there. And I said to my mum on, I think it was Christmas Eve, because I just got the email, and he said, like, "Happy Christmas. Would you like a job at Crytek?" So I went down and said, "Mum, I'm moving to Germany in 2 weeks." At 19 or 18, I think. And she was like, "Oh, okay." And then she went off and did something else. And then it was only later she was like, "Wait a minute, what did you say?" And then I went to Germany, and that's really how I sort of got my break in the industry. Got into a phenomenal games company that was in the middle of a big growth as well. So it was like I saw that company grow from a small studio to a huge studio, all the problems, teething issues, everything that came along with that. But also what a great thing it is to be part of a team that's small enough to appreciate each other and to sort of have friendships within that team, but also with just phenomenal people. Like the amount of talented people that were there to learn from was something that I said, well, one day I want that. I want to be around talented people like that all the time. I was just flicking through my phone actually before we came on the call, and it said like memories, like when it comes up with that, and it said like 12 years ago today, and it showed like a party from Crytek that I was at, and I was looking at all these people and be like, wow, he's like lead at ID Software. That guy, oh, he's at lead at Epic right now. That guy, and it was like, wow, that was really cool. And so we've all gone on to do really interesting things, but it just showed how good that recruitment was back then for them to go out and find the best people who are going to be the best in 10 years as well. And I'm lucky to be on that list.
Yeah. Do you think that kind of environment that you got you start in has kind of shaped your mentality in Airship with starting juniors, and when you see that determination, you've kind of put that trust, they might not be ready, like you said, but you've put that trust in them. Do you think that's kind of reflectant of the start that you got and you've brought that forward?
Great question. Yeah, I think so. I felt like I got that shot, and perhaps before I was ready. I mean, I was in the company of very, very talented people, and I was this, I was this little kid basically, who was trying his best to do great work, but the expectation was that I don't need to be great now. I'll be, I'll given the right tools, I'll be great soon. But also, I'm at a company where I'm expected to become great. So it was, you knew that you had to fit in eventually, but they weren't rushing you to do so. And it was a good experience, and one, it's brutal at times. The feedback that you can get when you're not used to that, it is very brutal. People ripping up and criticizing your work. But I also found out a lot about the right and the wrong way to do that too, and how to give somebody the tools and resources they need and the feedback they need to be successful without putting them down, and without sort of bringing them down and making them feel bad. And that's something that, through many mistakes we all learn, and I certainly learned during Airship. So it's an exciting time, because now we're in that position as CEO that I'm not focused on so much of the day-to-day, that I can make sure that company does grow in that image. And I feel like we've established that more than ever this year and last year.
Yeah, just backpedaling a little bit, and when you set up Airship Images, what made you set it up first of all, and why did you choose to be an external art vendor? What made you go down that avenue?
So Airship sort of spawned from my freelance career. I always knew I wanted to work for myself eventually. I'd been setting up small businesses for my whole life, and I love that. The fun of the build, the creativity of the build, and just making money off your own back. So your successes and your failures are yours, and yours only. So you've only got yourself to blame, and you've got yourself to be rewarded. That's evolved into understanding about delegation, understanding about team, and understanding that you're sometimes better with somebody than without them. And I met my wife over there in Germany too, and she's set up the company with me. She's the co-owner and co-founder, and she's phenomenal with her support, and how deeply involved she is in the running of the company too. You learn a lot along the way. But why did I set it up? I set up Airship because I wanted to give more people the opportunity to work on games, and for us to have a wider impact. Like, it was no longer good enough to just make one character for one game. I wanted to make like all the characters for all the games. I wanted to innovate as well. Like, I've been researching hair technology for the last, almost since I went to Crytek. I was doing work on advertising, creating like gorillas and animals with fur, and really researching. I've been fascinated with that for a long time, and that sort of led me to feel like, well, there's innovation to be had here in the industry. There's innovation and there's art, and within one studio. And before, in that little gap, I went to 3 or 4, 5 different studios as well and worked there. So I learned that you can only do so much within one company. Yet if I set up a company and innovate and build a team to sort of service more companies, like, we can not only work on more games, but we can also have a better impact and make all of those games better. And there was no other way that I could see to do that other than set up my own place.
Yeah. So speaking of some of the games that you worked on, I've been recently playing Star Wars Fallen Order, actually.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I love it. But some of the things that you notice, obviously after booking this interview with you, I did really notice some of the textures and stuff, particularly on the characters. Do you have a favourite game or project that you've worked on?
Great question. Again, this was one that has always stumped me, because we work on so many different projects and they have so many different reasons for why they're great. So, like, Star Citizen is an amazing project. It's an ongoing saga. It's huge, and the impact that we have on that project, to create lots of different outfits or characters or hairstyles, it's a lot of fun. And then you've got Jedi Fallen Order, which was a really interesting challenge to get the most out of it. A different new engine at the time, and the restrictions that they give you, and then how big that went. You know, I went to Argos to pick up like a rug. I think that's the most mundane thing I'll say all day. But but I went to Argos to pick up a rug, and there was like a massive advertisement for Jedi Fallen Order, and there's like Cal, there's the main character there. There's some hair that we had a hand in, and actually that's probably one of my favorite projects, because the artist who made Cal, Hanno, I met him when we went over to Respawn in America. We went there to the office, saw everything that they were about, saw their whole Star Wars sort of section. And Hanno was one of the first artists that I met when I went to Crytek, like all that time ago. And he was, he was my inspiration there. He like epitomized the hard work, the dedication, the hours, but also like the results that brought. He was a little god in that studio for characters, and almost single-handedly responsible for like some of the fantastic artwork in Crisis, and the heads and all the clothing before all these tools gave us clothing. Before sculpting, before Marvelous Designer, it was like hand poly-modeled cloth. it's mad. So yeah, he was a big inspiration like back then. So to work again on the same project with him, like years later, now we're supporting them as a external studio. I mean, that was really deeply rewarding.
Yeah, that should do it for this episode of Aardvark Asks. Thank you very much, Joseph, for joining us today. So if you have liked what you've heard, please do join us next time. And thank you very much for listening. Cheers.